Hello, everybody. Ring this little bell here. Just waking you guys up if you need a little wake-up call. Today, I want to talk about something really cool, and a lot of people have their own opinions about this, and I'm going to add my opinion to this ever elusive thing that we call the flow. All right. So there is a few things that I want to talk about today. The title of this video, I think I captioned it, the flow versus the flow state. So I was thinking about things that I could talk about today, and I was going to talk about healing. I was going to talk about like the healing trap, and I was going to also talk about some things that are going on in the collective. And then I thought, well, instead of kind of just talking about these things, why don't I talk about something that I could give you that could totally eradicate all of these things, right? Because when we enter into this flow, nothing can really touch us. And that's the best part about that, is that nothing can really touch us. And that's what I love about the flow state. So I'm going to do the best job that I can do here, and I'm going to share with you a little bit about how I get into this state, and I also want to talk about the flow itself. So your flow state is something that you might hear athletes talk about when they get into the zone. Now, I wouldn't necessarily consider the zone, if you will, as the flow state. So I can give you an example. When I played football in high school, there were times when it seemed as though reality slowed down as the running back came around the end out into the open field, and as I zeroed in on him to tackle, it's as if time slowed down, right? And that is similar, very similar to, when an artist is enraptured in his creations, time ceases to exist, and we enter into this kind of flow state, if you will. So these two things, if they aren't the same, they are very close, and they parallel each other. So I want to kind of give you some tools on how you can enter this flow state. The flow state just doesn't magically appear from thin air, right? So a lot of people want to access this flow state, and there's a few key things that you have to do to access this state. I just came for a run, just went for a run, and ran about 1.5 miles, and it's about 30 some degrees outside, so I'm like, my lungs are a little raw right now. So the number one thing that you can do to prime yourself is just that. You have to prime yourself for this flow state. And how you do that is you give yourself parameters for your day. Now this, like all spiritual concepts, is paradoxical because we live in the world of duality. So it's a paradox because on one hand, we are setting parameters, right? And parameters are kind of conditions or restrictions on our own realities. But within the parameters that we build, we only look at them as guiding posts along the day. So your flow state is very similar to the flow. The flow, if we all can agree that the day has a certain flow to it, and you can control to an extent how you interact with the day. If you wake up and you are in a negative frame of mind and you go outside, everything seems to happen bad. You hear people talk about, oh, I'm having a bad day. It's generally because their consciousness is exuding this negativity, which thus attracts more negativity. So if you prime yourself for the day, you can enter not only into a flow state, but the day will appear to be more fluid, as almost as if it is alive, when in fact it is your own consciousness that is affecting the day itself. So this is really awesome and revolutionary if you understand these principles. So the biggest thing is to develop some type of loose routine. For me, I eat three meals a day, and I cook most of my food. I very rarely go out to eat. And now more than ever with COVID, I really don't know who's preparing my food. I really don't know where that food's coming from. So for my general peace of mind, I like to cook. And if you follow my Instagram, you see a lot of food posts. And for me, that's where another place where I enter into this flow state. So to give you an example of the parameters, right? When I go to the grocery store, I generally buy fresh fruit and fresh vegetables and the same proteins, but every week I somehow create some type of new dish with just adding a different spice or adding a different rice. And in that way, I've set the parameters, but what I'm choosing to do with those parameters then is the flow that I enter into, the creativity that then enables me to kind of enter into the flow even while cooking. It's natural. It's just I go into the kitchen, I look at some vegetables, I grab a few things that I think would go good together, I start chopping them up, and then I stir fry them up or whatever the case. So you prime yourself and you set the parameters for your day. But these are not strict, rigid guidelines, they are just parameters. So this is paradoxical because we also have the whole element of surrender. And for those that believe in a higher power, for those that believe in God, that there is a divine purpose for your life, it's like, well, Corey, how does that come into play then if you are creating these parameters? And that is a great question, and that is what comes into play with the whole surrender paradox. It's like, I want to surrender to the divine, but yet at the same time, I still want to do things that I want to do, right? So that is the 50-50 split, where you set the parameters of your day and then you enter forth into the day, setting these positive guideposts for you to enter into. Then you can ask yourself questions. What does my soul want me to know today? I got that from Lee Harris. I can't take 100% credit for that, but it's an awesome saying. And what does my soul want me to know today? What would God like me to serve today? How can I be of service? This gets into co-creation. The principle of co-creation fully comes alive with this whole flow state, because it's literally surrendering, but yet taking divinely guided action steps. And it's a push and a pull and a give and a take. So it's very hard to describe, but that is my best way of trying to convey how you prime yourself to enter into the flow state. So now, the flow of the day, you can experience either positive or negative. And in the middle of that is what I call the void. So if you look at the entire day, And the example that I gave of the person that's having a bad day and they go throughout the day and they just continue to have bad things happen to them, it's almost like their consciousness is exuding this negativity, thus affecting the matrix, thus attracting more negative events, people, and places into their life based upon their frequency and vibration. So a PMA, or a positive mental attitude, is not just mumbo jumbo. That's why having a positive mental attitude is next and akin to those successful people like the great thinkers, inventors. They've had this PMA, this positive mental attitude, even during failure, which they were able to rise above this the limitations and everything of the world. So having a positive mental attitude, I cannot say more about that. So more about this void. So if you have the day here as this one gigantic day, and you either can experience the worst that the day has to bring, or you can experience the best that the day has to bring. And in the middle of that, I have experienced this void, okay? And this void is simply no thing. It's where it's almost like a pond, and the pond is just super still. There's no water moving, there's no ripples moving. This can be paralleled to Eckhart Tolle's description of the state of beingness. Although I would argue that beingness is positive, we're actually experiencing our own being, and I generally, our beingness is life force energy, which is positive. But this void, it can be scary. This is the void that many people that are depressed are in and don't know how to positively charge their consciousness to get out of the void. And the void is inaction. It's just simply no thing. It's not positive and it's not negative. If you look into the law of polarity, it's just a pendulum that swings, right? So your day can either swing in the right direction or it can swing in the wrong direction. But you can do certain things to keep yourself in a positive flow. Almost like you're in a kayak and you are just navigating the river, looking out for the big rocks and putting your paddle down and kind of maneuvering your kayak. So you're kind of just flowing down the river. We've all had those days where you just had an awesome day, right? It was just a great day. For each individual person's life, it will differ, but mainly there are some key things that all of us get great satisfaction from: connection, love, sharing, creativity, joy, and passion. These are all things that give us satisfaction. So think back recently to when you had a really great day and write down what it was that you experienced in that day. What did you do? What did you eat? What people did you interact with? Did you watch an enlightening documentary? Did you do something creative? And those are the guideposts then that you want to start stacking into your day. You want to start priming yourself based upon these things that gave you great pleasure, that added sustenance to your life. So for me, that is exactly what I do. I put things into my routine that add sustenance into my life. So the days where I wake up feeling depressed and feeling like shit, I have something in that routine that is going to change my state of being. It's going to change my level of just my state of being, and that will raise my consciousness just enough to get the momentum kind of going in a positive direction. I wish I would have known this years ago when I was younger, where I just woke up and, the day was just awesome. And I think a lot of us have experienced trauma around relationships, around heart trauma, and something to that extent where when we wake up in the morning, or if you're going through the ascension and you have ascension symptoms, the day is not just happy-go-lucky anymore, right? Now, I'm not saying we can't get back there, but long are the days where you can just not have to work for kind of your state of being. And those people that don't have to work anymore for their general states of peace and happiness, I would argue that they went through a lot to get there, right? To get to the other side of those feelings. So this is how you can better your life, better your day. It all starts with priming yourself for success. If you can put these things that you like into your routine, establish yourself some type of routine. And like I said, this isn't some rigid thing that you must be so anal about. But if you put down at 11 o'clock that you want to do some type of exercise, then do it, whatever that is. Maybe in the moment you say, well, you know what? I really don't feel like running today. I really don't feel like taking a run, but I still want to get some exercise. So this is where the surrender and the compromise and the push and the pull comes into play. So maybe you just go on to Gaia.com and do a 30-minute Kundalini yoga set, whatever it is, but you're still getting in your exercise. And then from that place, then you feel better, you eat some healthy food, and then boom, you start to put things into your day, and next thing you know, you're in this kind of flow state. No longer are you focused on your ailments, the ascension symptoms, your depression, your anxiety, because now you're just absorbed into the flow of the day. And that is how I get into my own flow state. So hopefully that helps some of you guys out there that are struggling during this, during this crazy situation that we all find ourselves in. It's like, that void too, that experiencing the void. And another way to look at this is just waking up sometimes and looking at the entire day and being like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do today? What am I going to do today? I don't have anything. I don't have any people to see. I don't have anywhere to go. Good God, sometimes that void of no thing can be very scary. And sometimes this cripples us into inaction. We start to get up in our heads, oh my God, I'm not going to see anyone. I'm not going to, do anything. And this is where your creativity and your creation comes into play. It is up to us to get ourselves out of these kind of mental prisons that we all put ourselves in. What is one more example, I guess, that can parallel this? And then I'm going to pull a card from the Angels of Abundance deck for some further guidance. I remember one time I was in prison, and all I wanted to do was walk across town. I just wanted to go for a walk. I wanted to have the freedom to go for a walk. And I remember it was summertime. I was looking out of my cell. You couldn't see any grass. It was just concrete, but you could see the sky out of my cell. And I remember thinking, all I wanted to do was to go for a walk. And then 6 months or so later, when I was released, I was in a recovery house, and I remember that the counseling center was all the way across town, and I had no license and no car, and nobody from the recovery house could give me a ride to the counseling session. And although I didn't want to go to the counseling session, nonetheless, I had to walk all the way across town to this, it was for some type of DUI counseling. And halfway through this walk, as I'm grumbling and moaning to myself, like, poor me, I gotta walk, all this sucks, I gotta walk all the way across town. 6 months earlier, that is all that I could think of doing, was going for a walk, being a free man. So this just shows you how ungrateful and how sometimes we have these blinders on our own lives that hold us back. And in that moment, as I was walking across town, I thought to myself, this is what you wanted, and here you are complaining about walking. So I think that can, go to show a lot of us, especially in Western society, we're ungrateful for what we have. I mean, we really need to start becoming more grateful for the things that we do have and not focusing so much on the negative. So let's pull a card here from the Angels of Abundance deck and see if there isn't something else that can kind of help us on our paths here in regards to how we can enter into a more healthy routine or accessing the flow state. So let's see what the angels have to say here. All right, cool. Here are the cards that we drew. The first one was donations. Donations, teething, and charitable work. We got this same card not too recently in one of the energy updates that I did. So it says, give joyfully to the organizations and people who spiritually support and inspire you, and know that your generosity will be returned to you manyfold in miraculous ways. The time, supplies, money, and other resources you donate will ensure that your positive energy multiplies. So a real quick example about donations, teething, and charitable work. I was at Staples the other day, and there was a couple people in front of me in line, and the guy kept asking if people wanted to donate $5 to the local schools for sanitizer and something else. And each person was like, no. And I could tell that the kid was getting, he was just, he was just kind of getting depressed because nobody was donating. So he came my turn and he asked me if I would like to donate $5 to, the school system. And I said, yeah, sure, of course. And his whole face lit up and he was like, that's awesome. And then he shared with me all the supplies behind him that people donated last week were all going to go towards the local school systems. $5, did it make or break my entire life? No. You know what I mean? Like, it made his day. It's going to a good cause. So donate. So many people, they're like, oh, I don't know where the money's going and all this type of conspiracy. It's like, look, you have to have faith in people, right? And give joyfully to the organizations and people who spiritually support and inspire you. All right, and know that will return to you. And so this is also helping us stay in this flow. This won't be like the flow state so much, but as like the good positive flow of the day. Giving and you give and you receive simultaneously. So it's like you're emanating this joy. We have this second card, Sever vows of poverty. That's a cool card. Dear one, there is no need to suffer or sacrifice. Hold the intention of undoing any vows of poverty or self-denial that you may have had, consciously or unconsciously, in any lifetime. As you do so, all effects of these vows will be undone for everyone involved in all directions of time. This is a very hard one because some of us don't consciously know what these vows of poverty are. So if you, like me, probably have some unconscious vows of poverty, start to write down some affirmations that will replant some seeds of prosperity, abundance, and just good luck. I have one here. I have a note card. I have these little note cards that I paste all over my apartment, and then I change the locations of them so my mind doesn't get used to seeing the same message in the same place. And that's how I do it. So here's one that I have. The perfect opportunity will present itself. So I always tell myself that the perfect opportunity will present itself. You can use this. It's a great thing. Like, the perfect opportunity will present itself. You say that a few times a week, and then that becomes ingrained into you. Then it becomes a part of your reality. Here's another one that I have. I have everything I need to do everything I want. And that's super powerful. I have everything I need to do everything I want. That's also one of my own personal ones, and these are just here on my computer. There's many more. Here's another one. I am enough. Self-imposed mindsets sentencing you to failure. Create your success. So a lot of us have self-imposed mindsets that are literally sentencing us to our own failure. So we must remind ourselves of that. And then our last card we have, do the work. It says here, it's not enough to dream or pray. You also got to take the positive action steps that you are being divinely guided to take. Consistently working on your priorities will make them flourish like a lush flower garden. This card can't be more relevant to what we were talking about earlier about surrender, but yet taking divinely guided action. So this illustrates this whole thing. It's saying it's not enough to dream or pray. As St. Paul said, faith without works is dead. It's great to have faith, but we also must have the works in our lives, consistently striving through divinely inspired action to fulfill these things that we want in our lives. And of course, pray, ask for guidance, ask for help by all means, but we have to kind of take these steps. So this comes back to setting those guideposts, those foundations in your routine throughout your day. Hopefully, this can help you access the flow and the flow state. It can help you access the flow and your own flow state. Now we'll end this. I'll just read from the Tao Te Ching real quick. We'll just open up to a random page and see here if we can read from here. All right. The 33 in Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching. Knowing others is wisdom. Knowing the self is enlightenment. Mastering others requires force. Mastering the self needs strength. He who knows he has enough is rich. Perseverance is a sign of willpower. He who stays where he is endures. To die, but not to perish, is to be eternally present. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into this live stream. I had thought I had a coaching session today, and I was confused, and I was already kind of primed myself to have an hour-long session, and I just was like, well, instead of looking at this as like some free time, or, I wanted to fill that with something that I would have got from my coaching session. So that's another example that illustrates this kind of this give and take, this push and this pull. It's like, what would I have got out of that coaching session? I would have been sharing, I would have been giving, and that's my service work. So instead of just, watching some YouTube videos or whatever I was going to do, I thought I might as well just do a live stream, fill up that hour-long block with something positive, something constructive, and then that's how the flow unfolds. All right, my friends, thank you so much for tuning in this live stream. Gloria, thanks so much for tuning in as well. Amir says, connect to your own divine state, your I am presence. Yes, the I am presence is another teaching as we move further along, especially the one of the Ascended Masters. The I am presence is huge. So yes, putting it into layman's terms, trying to convey to everybody. But yes, Amir, the I am presence is very powerful as well. The I am that I am. So you guys have an awesome day. I think that's it for now. Head over to my Etsy shop, peep some awesome jewelry. Still getting everything uploaded and working on my own store, and still writing my book. So you guys have an awesome day. Peace, much love. Have an awesome week.